Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So today's video is all about the 10 biggest luxury shopping mistakes you can make. I have been luxury shopping for many years now, and I have made many mistakes along the way. So I thought I would identify the biggest ones that I think that I've made, and also the most common ones that I see other people making as well. I always get so many questions about every aspect of shopping for luxury goods, and so I thought this might be helpful for those of you just starting out, or for those of you just keen to avoid making shopping mistakes, because these are very big purchases. So I hope you guys enjoy this and find it useful, and let's get going. So the very first mistake that I've identified is not doing enough research into the sizes and materials available for any given bag. This may seem like a complete no-brainer as something that obviously everyone would do, but I have made this mistake at least twice, and I feel like I'm very particular about my bags, especially when it comes to luxury brands. They often have very confusing terminology for their bag sizes. Chanel, for example, have their minis, and then they have a small flap, and then something called a medium large flap, and then it goes to jumbo and then maxi. But even when you go into the store, they'll often call the jumbo just a large flap, and again it just gets very confusing. So it's very easy to make a mistake. When I first bought my very first Chanel bag from the store, I wanted to get a jumbo and I ended up getting a maxi just because I got so confused with the different sizing, and I just wasn't that familiar with them at the time. So it is easy to do, and even though it isn't the end of the world if you do make a mistake, often luxury brands don't always have the most flexible exchange and return policies. So I realized mine a little bit too late, so I ended up just selling mine and then buying the jumbo later. But that did cost me money because Chanel has very frequent price increases, and I did lose a bit of money on my maxi. So if you can preempt that and do your research beforehand, go on forums, go on Instagram, go on Pinterest, whatever it is that helps you make that informed decision, it is well worth the time doing so, just to make sure you don't make a costly mistake. My second luxury shopping mistake is not thinking through cost per wear and not being honest with yourself about how much you think you're going to use it. I have been guilty of this many times over. I will get swept up in the moment and in an item, completely fall in love with it, and not think really how it's going to integrate with my wardrobe and my life. I can say with confidence that the biggest indicator as to how satisfied I'm going to be with an item is how much use I get out of it. So it can be the most beautiful bag in the world, but if it just sits on my shelf collecting dust, I will feel very guilty about that, and it will affect how much I like that item, not to mention just being a waste of money. On the other hand, I may have a bag which isn't quite so pretty to look at, but it may be way more functional for me and my lifestyle, and I'll get a ton more use out of it, and I'll subsequently like it a lot more as a result of that as well. So really be honest with yourself about how much you think you're going to use it. Think through the different elements as well. So think through colour and durability, the type of leather, wear and tear, all those things are really big factors. So definitely an important one. Think through cost per wear, and most importantly, be honest with yourself when doing so. My third luxury shopping mistake is not thinking about durability and how you like to take care of your personal belongings. I know there are some people who are really happy to baby their luxury bags or goods, are happy to take a lot of care of them and really take a lot of time making sure that they're okay. On the other hand, I know there are some people who do not want to baby their bags, want something that's really low maintenance and care and fuss free. I would say that those are two very different types of people, and they should probably be looking at two very different types of bag. I would say I'm probably somewhere in the middle, in that I don't mind looking after my luxury goods, but at the same time I don't want to constantly be worrying every time I go out. I don't want to constantly have to check my bag to make sure there are any scratches or dings or anything like that. So that is really important to think through before you purchase. If you are someone that prefers really low maintenance items, then I would really advise against Chanel lambskin, for example. But on the other hand, if you do like to really take care of your things, then maybe lambskin is the right choice for you. So how you are as a person and with your items, it really should indicate what kind of bag and what kind of leather you go for. My fourth luxury shopping mistake is not thinking through resale value, and this doesn't even necessarily relate solely to if you want to sell the bag, but it's also one to consider if you just want a fairly classic bag that will last 5, 10, 15 years. Often resale value will not just indicate how much you'll get on a resale market, but it'll also indicate how in demand the bag is and how current it looks. Some bags do very well on the resale market, namely Hermes and Chanel, because they are very classic designs which they keep producing year after year. Other brands do less well, such as Chloe, because the bags they produce are very, very beautiful, but they also tend to be very of the moment, which means that they do date after 5 or 10 years, which does affect the resale value, but also does affect how current they look as well. So even if you're not planning on selling your bag later, it is still one to consider if you do want something that is going to look classic and look the part 5 or 10 years down the line. And conversely, my fifth point is thinking too much about resale value. I'm part of a bag chat Facebook group, which if you're interested in joining, then I will link it below, but I see a lot of women obsessing over the resale value of the bags they're planning on buying and really forgetting about how much they actually like the bag and really only planning for the future. And even though that's great to do, especially if you do think that you might sell the bag in future, it really shouldn't be the only thing you're considering. If no one else in the world liked the bag or item you're considering, but you love it and you think it will suit your personality and lifestyle and wardrobe, then by all means you should absolutely get it, because that's essentially the most important thing. No one else is going to be wearing it. You're going to be the one using and wearing it on a hopefully weekly basis. So that is the most important thing in my opinion and my experience as well. So even though resale value is a really good one to consider, it certainly isn't the only thing to consider when planning your purchase. My sixth biggest shopping mistake is buying something in lieu of something else. So I'm going to use a Chanel bag example again, just because that's the one I get asked about the most. But say for example, you have always wanted a Chanel medium flap and you've been saving for it, but you're debating whether to spend the money on something else because you can get 2 Gucci bags for the price of 1 Chanel flap or something like that. I would say that in my experience it's always best to save for what you really want rather than trying to settle because it seems like the easier option at the time. And I'm not saying you can't find good cheaper alternatives, because I think that's true of pretty much any style out there, but if you do desperately want one particular piece that have been saving for it for a really long time, usually in my experience what will happen is you'll buy something else and you'll still end up wanting that more expensive piece. So sometimes it does work out cheaper and more cost effective just to save that little bit more to get the thing that you really want rather than trying to settle. Again, you can absolutely find cheap alternatives of pretty much anything, but if you do have your heart set on that one dream Chanel bag, then I'd always say try to go for it if you can. My seventh biggest luxury shopping mistake is thinking that the more you'll spend, the better quality you'll get. And unfortunately, this doesn't always work out to be true. I know you'll be able to find examples of almost every brand out there where you will find quality issues, and that is true of Chanel, it's true of Gucci, it's true of pretty much every single luxury brand. There will always be discrepancies, there will always be mistakes, and just because you're paying loads more doesn't necessarily mean you're getting a vastly superior product in terms of quality. You will be able to find beautiful leather bags for £100 or £200 that are just amazing in their quality and the craftsmanship, and when you do get to the higher end of the market, a lot of what you're paying for is the branding and the marketing and them throwing fancy parties with models and celebrities and all those kind of things. So just because you're paying a lot more doesn't necessarily mean you're getting absolutely superior quality. It is true, however, that you should be able to expect better service when you are spending more money. So if there is some kind of issue, you should fully expect to be able to send the item back in and they repair it or replace it. So that's one element that you should absolutely come to expect if you are paying these higher prices. But at the same time, I would always say do a quick once over whenever you receive your item. So look at the stitching, look at the corners, look at the overall quality of the bag. If you're not happy, you are fully within your rights to ask for a replacement, because at the end of the day, these are really expensive items and you are paying for that quality and the service. My eighth biggest luxury shopping mistake is buying items that aren't right for you just because you see everyone else having them, and I'm certainly guilty of this. It's really difficult to try and resist, I think, in this age of Instagram and Pinterest, seeing, you know, fashion bloggers with all the latest it bags, and it's really easy, I think, to get swept up into trends. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with trends or fashion, because I always think it's fun to indulge in those things, but try to think through if it's actually going to work for you. And if you don't like something and everyone else has it, that's okay too. I know so many people still hate the Gucci Marmot design, even though it is all over Instagram at the moment. that's absolutely fine. There are some bags which I really cannot get on board with, and everyone else seems to love them, and I don't get it, but I know I also don't have to get it. So if you're buying luxury, make sure that it really is right for you, because essentially these are very expensive purchases and it's important that you do try and get it right. My 9th biggest luxury shopping mistake is buying something without truly being able to afford it. No matter how beautiful the luxury item is, it is not worth going into debt over. Increasingly, I'm seeing luxury resale websites offering financing as well, which I think is a bit concerning, because nothing is worth going into debt over, especially not a handbag or a pair of shoes or something like that. So I really do believe in the satisfaction of saving as well. Have a goal, try and save towards it. By all means, scrimp on other things, you know, cut back in other areas. And once you do reach that savings goal, it's going to be so much more worth it when you do pay for something in cash. But try and resist all kind of financing options, because no luxury good is worth going into debt over. And now for my 10th and final luxury shopping mistake, and that is, don't think that your happiness rests on owning a particular item. Take it from someone who owns a lot of fancy bags and shoes, your happiness is completely dependent of that. Yes, it's fun to shop for and talk about luxury items, and obviously that is what this channel is dedicated to in large part, but it really has nothing to do with how happy you are. Happiness comes from everything else in your life, you know, your family, your friends, your work, all those kind of things. So without getting too philosophical, it's just important to bear in mind that yes, fancy handbags are fun, but they do not equal happiness in your life. Otherwise, all super rich people would be ecstatically happy all the time, and that's just not the way it works. So yes, it can be fun, but it does not mean happiness at all. So that is it for this video, guys. I hope that you enjoyed it. If you have any luxury shopping mistakes of your own, either that you've made in the past or that you see other people make, leave them down below in the comment section. And if you enjoyed the video, please do give it a thumbs up. As always, thank you so much for watching. I will see you in my next one. Bye, guys.